In this video, we'll learn about what IP addresses are and why they're so important for us to learn. And in this day and age, there are a lot of devices and a lot of people connected to the internet. And we need to be able to identify all of those devices. So every single device that's on the internet or on a corporate Ethernet LAN, all of those devices have to have an IP address. And a good thing to compare an IP address to is a physical address of somebody's house or of a business. So let's say, for example, that I'm a delivery driver for Amazon or whoever, right? And I need to make a delivery to your house. And so here's the house that the delivery needs to go to, and my truck is way over here. Well, I'm going to need that person's home address, right? In order to deliver any material to them, I need to know which route to take and how to get to that individual's address. And it's the same thing with devices on the internet. If I want an email delivered to my email application, or if I want a website delivered to my browser, I have to have an address that content can be delivered to. So think of your IP address as essentially your address on the internet. Now, your computer also has something called a MAC address. A MAC address is very different. So, for example, let's take a look at our little diagram one more time here. And every device on the internet has a MAC address. So let's say that I'm standing on the road, I'm right here, and I tell you, hey, you need to go to the third house on the left. Well, I could say, here's the first house, second house, here's the third house on the left. And those directions make sense. That's going to make sense locally. But if I happen to be standing over here, I don't want to say, hey, you want to go to the third house on the right and then take a left, and then it's not going to work, right? Those directions aren't going to work from further away. And that's kind of like the difference between a MAC address and an IP address. MAC addresses, those are useful locally within a local area network. By the way, if you haven't taken my Intro to Networking crash course already, you may want to consider it if you're not familiar with the concept of a local area network. Regardless, MAC addresses, think local for MAC addresses, right? Those are local addresses versus IP addresses. That's like your home address. Anybody anywhere in the world can get your home address and send a letter to you. Doesn't matter where they're located. Your home address is a globally unique identifier for your physical location. And so let's just imagine a person using the internet, and they're using their computer and they're typing in some address to their browser, right? It could be www.google.com or yahoo.com or whatever. What's actually happening when they put in that address is their computer is sending out a query. Now, we don't have to talk too much about the specifics of this, but it's something called a DNS query. And basically, your computer or whatever device you're accessing websites on needs to know how to get to that website. Your computer's basically saying, hey, Rick is trying to get to google.com. How do we get there? How do we get to google.com? And the result that's going to come back to your computer based on the query that your computer is issuing is going to be an IP address. So basically, the idea here is I can type in something that's easy for me to remember, like google.com. It'll generate a query, your computer will, send it out to the internet and say, hey, Rick wants to get to google.com. That will return the IP address for me, because IP addresses are hard to remember, right? It's a series of numbers, and I can't remember that as easily as I can remember google.com. So now let's take a moment to just verify this in real life. So I'm using a Windows computer, and I've launched my command prompt, and I'm going to use a command called nslookup to send a DNS query for google.com, and I've specified the address of my DNS server here. Basically, I just want to show you what happens. If I type in google.com on my computer is going to issue a DNS query, and it's going to try to find out the public IP address of google.com so that it knows where to send that traffic to. So that is how computers communicate. They use IP addresses as their own unique identifier on the internet. And in the next lesson, we'll start to take a closer look at what these IP addresses look like and what the differences between public and private IPs are.